Okay, this is actually what I wanted to talk about. So, all right, this is just to me, this is an insanely wild story. I haven't heard too many people talking about it, so I thought I would. You guys have heard of the double slit experiment? So this meme sort of explains it perfectly. So you've got the monkey. He's not looking, right? And then it shows two slits in a board in front of him, and then it shows a bunch of lines behind the board. It shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines behind the board, right? And then he looks at the board with two slits in it, and then the board behind it only has 2 lines. So if you guys aren't familiar with the double slit experiment, it's about shooting photons at a board that has 2 slits in it. And when you're watching it, it does exactly what you'd think. So if you shoot like a shotgun repeatedly at a metal door, a solid metal door, and it's got 2 slits in it, behind that metal door, you're going to see the shotgun pellets go in 2 separate lines. That's just what's going to happen, right? Well, the double slit experiment shows that when I think it's photons, that you shoot photons through the same thing, through double slits. When you're watching it, exactly what you would expect to happen would happen. You'd get 2 lines behind the 2 slits. But when somebody's observing it, that's what it does. But when somebody's not observing, it does something completely different, which is like, how does that work? It's insanely bizarre, right? So this is a guy named Brian Greene, and he's actually on Stephen Colbert explaining the double slit experiment.
So just imagine that you have a gun that's firing bullets or pellets at a screen that has 2 slits, 2 openings. Those are double slits. And your intuition tells you that those pellets that get through the left opening will land in a band aligned with it on the left, and those that get through the right will land in a band aligned with it on the right.
That makes sense.
And that's what happens.
With bullets.
Good, with bullets.
Okay.
Let's now run that experiment with one change. We're simply going to dial down the size of the bullets, making them smaller, small little particles like electrons. When you fire the electrons at the barrier with the 2 slits, you don't just get 2 bands. You get more bands. And that simple change, going from our expectation of 2 bands to, in this case, 5 bands, that represents the single greatest upheaval in our understanding of reality that the species has ever encountered. So just imagine.
All right, so we're talking about quantum physics now, which I am clearly not qualified to talk about. But he left something out. When somebody was observing it, it did what you would expect it to do. But when you're not observing it, it doesn't do what you expect it to do. That's like the key point of this. So let's watch this other quick clip that explains what I just explained better.
Now, this is where things get quantum. In the early 1800s, scientists ran a simple experiment, one that should have been ordinary, predictable, harmless. They fired particles of light through 2 narrow slits in a metal plate, expecting the universe to behave like it always had. But it didn't. When no one measured the path, the photons didn't act like particles at all. They spread out like waves everywhere at once, as if reality itself remained undecided, as if the universe was keeping its options open. But the moment a detector was added, the moment someone or something tried to know, everything changed. The wave of possibilities collapsed. The photon chose a single path. Reality locked into place. This is where the experiment takes a turn.
See, how insane is that? Why? Why would the exact same action change based on somebody observing the action? That makes no sense, right? That's like reality breaking.
Almost no one talks about. Why did the collapse happen? Was it just the detector, a piece of machinery interacting with the particle? Or was it the act of observation itself? 100 years later, quantum physicists still can't agree. Some insist it's all just interaction, nothing mysterious. But others, including some of the pioneers of quantum theory, dared to suggest something different. They believed consciousness might play a role, that awareness could influence which version of reality becomes real, that the universe doesn't fully decide until someone is there to notice. No experiment has been able to settle the debate. No one has been able to close the case. In the deepest layers of quantum physics, one question still lingers unanswered and unsettling. Does reality crystallize because it is measured or because it is noticed? And if it's the latter, what does that say about the power of our minds? Are we far more powerful than we think?
So to me, this is like the biggest evidence to support the idea that we do actually live in a simulation. I don't think we live in a simulation, but part of that is because I refuse to believe that I live in a simulation. I refuse to believe that there's no free will. There's no, like, if we live in a simulation, then what is existence? You know, this is a whole like philosophical idea here. So why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing up the double slit experiment? That's because something just happened with CERN, you know, the Large Hadron Collider in Europe, underground, the big circle, and they shoot photons at each other, or they shoot particles rather at each other, and they go around this thing and until they actually collide, and then they see what happens. You know, a lot of people are scared they're going to open up a black hole by doing this, because they're sending them around this tube in opposite directions, big giant like 2-mile tube, and until they hit each other, and they're shooting them just under the speed of light. They have a similar, much smaller scale one over in Palo Alto. It's called SLAC. It's the linear accelerator. They do the same thing in a straight line, and it's like 2 miles long. I actually think this one's like 30 miles or something like that. It's insanely long. So why am I bringing up the double slit experiment? So apparently in January of 2026, CERN's AI flagged a collision signature that changed depending on who was in the room, not equipment, not temperature, the people. And when the control room was empty during automated runs, the pattern reversed. Is CERN detecting something that connects quantum mechanics to conscious observation? So it's like the same thing. Like the same thing is happening. And this is super, like, this is reality breaking. Like, if you take an action, why would the results of that action change based on somebody observing the action? That doesn't make any sense. How is this happening? One of you guys that are into quantum mechanics, please explain it to me, because my lizard brain cannot freaking comprehend what's going on.